Images about World War III and its potential impact have been in development since the end of the Second World War more than 60 years ago. In many cases, those types of images or thoughts have focused on nuclear types of exchanges between countries. It seems to be becoming more and more apparent that World War III will be waged, at least in part, online. And the reality is that there is a growing number of initiatives by various governments, the U.S. government, Chinese government, Israeli, Middle Eastern governments, in this area of cyber warfare. As a matter of fact, these types of talks have been going on for a couple of years now. A few years ago, the folks at Google and other companies in the United States felt that the Chinese government was in the process of developing various types of worms and malware to go at and attack U.S. companies' corporate assets and try to steal some of their corporate secrets and the like. Since then, it's become clear that the Obama administration has worked with the Israeli government to develop some types of cyber malware that was aimed at Iran and trying to slow down its nuclear developments or its nuclear plans. And recently, Kaspersky Labs has found that there is a large worm called the Win32 flame, and it has hypothesized that it was also developed by a government agency and has been in availability or been out there for at least a few years now. The reality is these new types of malware are much more sophisticated and potentially much more damaging than some of the traditional malware we've seen developed by hackers as well as folks who are in organized crime. These types of malware are much more difficult to detect and also much more difficult to try to come up with an antidote for. Consequently, it looks as the world continues to evolve, the use of cyber warfare is going to become more common between nations that are not in agreement. And consequently, World War III will have probably at least a virtual element and possibly may have some of those traditional types of attacks where we're going to be involved in ground warfare as well as battles that are going to be waged virtually. And the potential impact of these is unknown at this moment, but it certainly could be as damaging or perhaps much more damaging than some of the traditional attacks in the fact that it can be in a situation where it will wipe out things like power systems and potentially things like the national grid or other types of communication or possibly the internet itself or a country's use of the internet quickly and expeditiously, and consequently create a lot more problems than traditional warfare. So the war may be over in an internet instant rather than some of the traditional time frames that we've seen among warring nations.